Greetings, it's Iain from RTO here. Welcome to a Marathon Wednesday, and we've got a viewer's request this week, and it's for British singer-songwriter, guitarist John Martyn. Born the 11th of September 1948 as Iain David McGeechee, and he spells Iain just like me. I wonder why. Very successful career, 40 years in the music business. He released 21 solo albums, well, technically 19, and 2 with his ex-wife Beverly, and they frequently got critical acclaim. He mixed music of folk, Scottish folk music, jazz, blues and rock. He started off more folky, and then when he signed to Ireland in the 70s, he began putting in the jazz and rock element into his music. He was mates with Phil Collins, so he recorded with Phil Collins a few times. Sadly, John died on the 29th of January 2009 in Thomastown, County Kilkenny in Ireland, from acute respiratory distress syndrome. They say it's down to his long life abuse of drugs and alcohol. But as a solo artist without Beverly, he released 19 albums. Some are good, some are not as good as the others. So I've always heard of John Martyn, because of his connections with Phil Collins. I've never really listened to a lot of his stuff, but I prefer his earlier stuff, if truth be known. So let's get a cracking. So coming in at number 21, we have an album from 1984, and it is called Sapphire. This was where he abandoned his acoustic guitar in favour of glossy pop rock sound. Not a good thing. So the first track is the title track. It's called Sapphire. Taking too much advice from Phil Collins here, because the start of it is that electronic drum that Phil Collins used, that sound that we all know. It just doesn't suit John at all. I didn't like that track. Then he does a version of Somewhere Over the Rainbow, which is pretty awful. Very poppy. It just didn't sound right. I just didn't like it. Watching Her Eyes. Now this isn't too bad. The vocals are good. It is a glossy pop sound, but it's one of the better tracks on here. Then we have Fisherman's Dream, another of the better songs, although it has got a little cheesy keyboard bit on it, that sound that I just hate from the 70s. Acid Rain is just more plastic pop, and it does nothing for me. Mad Dog Days, I do like the saxophone on this. It's a great vocal from John. I just think it's one of the better tracks. Climb the Walls, just terrible, puppy plastic, yuck. Coming on Time, just more of that horrible 80s rubbish. And Rope Sold, probably the best track on here. It has got some great saxophone on it, which helps. Yeah, this album, there's just 1 or 2 tracks on here that are good. The rest is just rubbish in my books. I know there's people out there that may like it, but I just didn't like it. So I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 3 out of 10. Okay, coming in at number 20. Now this is an album that has got a bit of history. It's from 1993 and it's called No Little Boy, and it features re-recorded classic songs from the 70s and 80s. But he'd already recorded them on Couldn't Move You More, that was released in 1992. And it was released without his permission by Permanent Records. So John decided to re-record them and give it a different name and a different running order. And he got in this time Levenhelm, Phil Collins and Andy Shepherd to help him. So what I'll do, I'll just run through the tracks because we're going to talk about these tracks further down the line anyway. So it's Solid Air, Ways to Cry, Could Have Been, I Don't Want to Know, Just Now, One Day Without You, Sweet Little Mystery, Passion Cal, Sunday's Child, Head on Heart, Fine Lines, Bless This Weather, Man in a Storm, One World, Rock, Salt and Nails, and Hole in the Heart. Hole in the Rain, sorry. Out of the two albums, this one I don't like this remix. Why do it? He just got a bit uppity, I think. So I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 4 out of 10. Okay, then coming in at number 19, we have an album from 2000, and it is called Glasgow Walker. And it was written on a keyboard rather than guitar, as a suggestion from his friend Phil Collins. Phil Collins trying to make him sound like Phil Collins. So Sweet is the opening. It's okay. Pleasant sort of track. Phil Collins should be singing on it, that's all I'll say. Wildflower, I do like this song. It's a nice, gentle song. It has got a little bit of guitar in there, and it's a fine vocal from John. The Field of Play. This one, although I do love John's guitar work, I think it's just a little bit of dour with the rest of the song. Cool Is This Life. Not a bigger fan. This is just too not. It's out of his comfort zone as far as I'm concerned. Feels So Good. The best track on the album. It's a great vocal. There is some nice atmosphere on this, and it has got some guitar on it, which is pretty good. Then he does a version of Cry Me a River. It's alright. Mama T, a little bit monotonous this is. It just goes on and on and on. Should have ended, it's 5 minutes long. It should have ended after about 3. Can't Live Without. Unfortunately, it's a sounds, when you record songs, you know, the new thing with the keyboards, they all sound the same, and this does. The Cat Won't Work Tonight. Good. Jazzy sound. Much better. You Don't Know What Love Is, the last track on the album. It's okay. It's got some proper sax on it. It's a jazzy sort of number. It's a good number to end the album. There are a few songs on here that are good, but this is a little bit monotonous. Same old throughout the album. So I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 5 out of 10. Coming in at number 18 is the original recordings of No Little Boy. Now this was the album that came out in 1992. This is, again, this album could be considered the best of John Martyn. A lot of the fans didn't like this album either, but I do. And we'll talk about these albums, and the running order is different. It's Lonely Love, Couldn't Love You More, Sweet Little Mystery, Heart and Head, Could Have Been, One Day Without You, Over the Hill, Fine Lines, May You Never, One World, Ways to Cry, Angeline, which was different, Man in the Station, Solid Air, Never Let It Go. As I said, unlike John and some of the fans, this is a better album. They're not as good as the originals, but this is a better album, so I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 5.5. Okay, then, coming in at number 17, this is a posthumous album that was recorded by John but completed by Gary Pollitt and released in 2011. During what the working title for this was Willing to Work. So these are all songs that were laying around and they finally got them finished and put them out. So the first track on this one is called Heel of the Hunt. You can hear Phil Collins in the background doing his backing vocals. And John sounds really like Louis Armstrong on this. It's quite a good track actually. Stand Amazed. I think this is a little bit disjointed in places. I mean, you could tell this is recorded towards the end of his life because, you know, his voice was getting a bit gravelly Again, if you listen to it under headphones, you can hear him sort of gasping here and there. So, you know, fair play to him for doing it, but it's very disjointed. Heaven and Earth is next. John's voice is really wavy in this. You know, his health, again, it just, you know, anyone else you'd go, oh, this is awful, but no, considering what he'd got, it was amazing that he could still sing. Next track, Bad Company, nothing to do with the Bad Company song. It's the best track on here. His vocals are really nice on this. There's some nice keyboard work on it as well. Could have told you before I met you. It's okay, it's pleasant enough. Gambler, he's trying to sort of go back to the old days, and it sort of works. Then there's a track called Can't Turn Back the Years, written by Phil, arranged by Phil, and just John sings it. I think this was just very Phil Collins to me. Colour, his voice is a little croaky, but it's a nice song actually. Willing to Work, it's all about the guitar and saxophone on it, but that's good. Considering that, you know, this is towards the end, it's not too bad, and it is listenable, and, you know, respect to John for recording these songs, and it's nice that they're out there. So I'm going to give this one an RTO ranking at 5.6. Okay, going coming in at number 16. We get to 1996 now, and an album just called And. It was recorded in Nashville and Lanarkshire. Contrasting places. As usual, lots of people playing on here. So the first track is called Sunshine's Better. Nice song, nice arrangement. Really good vocal from John on this. Terrific. And there's a lovely piece of saxophone in this that's terrific. Suzanne, typical sort of John Martyn song. Absolutely delightful. Really nice song. The Downward Pull of Human Nature, really nice little track. There's some nice piano on this. One of my favourite songs on this album. Then we have All in Your Favour, a little bit disjointed. Not a couple particular favourite of mine. A Little Strange. It's alright. Who they are. A bit whiny. Then Step It Up. Favourite, it's quite got a bit of a funking to it. It's got some great sax on this. I do like that. Carmine, it's okay, it's a pleasant enough track. She's a Lover, it's okay. And then we get Sunshine's Better Acid Remix, which is a hidden track, a little bit more better than the other one. A bit of a mixed bag album here. Some tracks are a bit weak, but there are some really solid tracks on here as well. So I'm going to give this one an RTO ranking of 6 out of 10. Time for a sip of coffee. Okay, then come in at number 15. Go to 1982 now. To the Well Kept Secret album. First track on this one is Could Have Been Me. Nice track. Great bass line in this. It's a really uplifting track from John. You Might Need a Man. Bit disco-y. Oh dear. Doesn't suit him. Hung Up. It's not bad. It's a nice middle of the road sort of track. Great vocal from John though. Very powerful. Gun Money. I do like this. It's got that sort of early 80s sound, but it was still when it was quite rocky. It's got some nice keyboard on this. Never Let Me Go. Written by Joseph Scott, this song. It's a nice version. Nice track. Love Up, my favourite up here. It's so catchy. It's an upbeat track. Pretty good track as well. Changes Her Mind. Very 80s pop. This is where it sort of went down a bit hill. Not very good. Hiss on a Tape sounds more like a Billy Ocean track than John Martyn, and it's quite fun, actually. Back with a Vengeance. That 80s sound is creeping in, and with the guitar, too smooth. Living Alone. It's got some lovely guitar on it, better than the previous track. Very 80s sounding. The actual full 80s sound is starting to creep in, but the guitar work on this is pretty good in places, so I shall give this an RTO ranking of 6.2. Okay, coming in at number 14, this is the final album that he recorded in his lifetime, and it was released in 2004, and it's called On the Cobbles. First track written by Frankie Miller. Remember him? He had a big hit with Darling in the 70s. It's called Baby Come Home. Great song. My favourite on the album. I like Frankie Miller. Great performer. Great songwriter as well. And this is typical Frankie Miller. Great track. Under My Wing. Nice track. Lovely words. Very meaningful words as well. Ghosts, interesting song. It's a bit of a funky sound, not too bad. The guitars sound good on this. Back to Marseille, another good track. Nice acoustic guitar and a fantastic vocal from John. Cobbles, it's got a gravelly voice of John, really works. Then we got My Creator, some saxophone on here, some strings, pretty good. One for the Road, my second favourite track on this album. Some nice gentle acoustic guitar on this. You know, his vocals were a bit oofy in them days, but his guitar playing was still as good. Go Down Easy, once again we have some nice saxophone that soothes the tracks. Walking Home, very Chris Rea for me. I do like it. Goodnight Irene, not a bad track to end the album. I would say this is a pretty good album to sign off on with. At the time we didn't know this was going to be his last album, but there's some really strong tracks on this, and I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 6.5. Okay, coming in at number 13, we get to 1981 for this one, and it's Glorious Fool, and there's some people on here that we can I can tell you about. John Martyn does the vocals and guitar. Max Middleton plays keyboards. Mr. Eric Clapton plays guitar on Couldn't Love You More. Alan Thompson's the bass. Phil Collins does all the drums and additional vocals and pianos on Don't You Go. Danny Cummins does a bit of percussion. Dick Cuthrell on the flugelhorn. So, first track, Couldn't Love You More. Brilliant track. The guitar work is great, of course, because it's got Eric Clapton on it. It's a really good track, but not my favourite on the album, because my favourite track is Amsterdam. I quite like this. It's got a very Peter Gabriel solo feel to it. I think it's a really strong track. Hold On My Heart, a bit of the middle of the road. In fact, it's a bit like lift music, and it's a bit strange, or something from an American sitcom of the 70s. It's okay. Perfect Hustler is a really quirky little number. The guitar's great, funky, and there's some great bongos on here. Heart and Keys, it's a little bit too long. It's 7 minutes 33 seconds. It sort of loses its pace about halfway through, and I think it's okay. So how do we end this? A shame, because it is a good track. Glorious Fool, I'm not keen on this either. It doesn't seem to go anywhere. It seems to go round in circles without an ending. Never Say Never. Ooh, you can tell Phil Collins is on the ball here. It's very Phil Collins. It's not a bad track. Passional, bit whiny, don't like it. Didn't Do That, pretty weak track to me. It's a bit wishy-washy. Please Fall in Love with Me. The drum at the beginning reminds me of Phil Collins' track I Don't Care Anymore. One of the best tracks on the album. Phil's drumming on this is pretty good. And the last track, Don't You Go, nice song, the piano works nice. This is Phil Collins doing it. It's a really nice track to end the album, actually. Not a bad album, mixed bag again, some great songs on here, some are disjointed, but on the whole I've quite enjoyed this. And I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 6.6. Okay, coming in number 12, we're at 1986 now. And the Piece by Piece album. Joining John on here, we've got Foss Patterson, who's played with keyboards with Fish, of course. Alan Thompson on the fretless bass, Danny Cummins percussion, Colin Tully provides some saxophone. First track is called Nightline. Still got lots of that mid-80s sound on it, but it sounds okay. I've got no problem with that. Lonely Love. Some great saxophone work on here from Colin Tully. Really adds to the track. If it weren't for that, it'd be pretty dull. Angeline, good track. Got some nice sounds on that one. It's alright, there nearly was a collision outside. 2 cars. Considering we're a little street that's sort of very quiet, it nearly was a big bang. Sorry about that, folks. One step too far. It's okay. It's got that 80s feel to it. It's a bit of a vibe. Piece by Piece. I like this one. This is written by Foster Patterson. Some nice gentle guitar on that. Serendipity. Sorry if I've mispronounced that, but you know I can't say certain words, and there's one. It's an okay track. Who Believes in Angels? Great saxophone from Colin on this. Again, if it weren't for that saxophone, it'd be quite dull. Love of Mine, pretty good. My favourite track is actually called John Wayne. I like this because it's quite dramatic. The arrangement's good. It's a great vocal from John. Really good song. As I said, for a mid-80s album, it isn't too bad. It's got lots of elements to make it more not too insipid. So I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 6.7. Okay, coming in at number 11. It's 1991 now. And the Cooltide album got Spencer Cousins on keyboards and synth bass, which always freaks me out. Foster Patterson on the keyboards. Then we've got some real bass players. We've got Dave Ball and Alan Thompson. Some drums here done by John Henderson and Aaron Alum. Percussion, Miles Bald. Vibraphone. I love a bit of vibraphone from Joe Locke. And Andy Shepherd's doing a soprano saxophone. Hole in the Rain opens this album. Good little pop song, actually. Great vocal from John. I don't mind that one. Annie Says, some lovely piano and saxophone interplay here. Wonderful track. My favourite track on this one is called Jack the Lad. Quirky, some nice keyboards, really adds to the track, really good. Number 9 is next. A lot of piano on this, very soothing track, and a very good vocal from John on that one. The Cure, this is really good. It's a bit of a jazz fusion thing, really well put together track, really enjoy that one. Same Difference, a great bass line on here, it really gives it atmosphere, a very strong vocal from John as well. Father Time, I don't like the arrangement and it's a little bit blur, but what adds to it, the wonderful bit of vibraphone. Then we have Cool Me, nothing to do with Blondie. It's a gentle track with some nice gentle piano and saxophone, just adds a little bit of atmosphere. Then we have this thing called Cooltide, 12 minutes and it's jazzy, brilliant, absolutely brilliant. These jazz influences come into this, lots of great jazz guitar sound, fantastic track. Not a bad album, there's some really songs on this. I like the funkiness of it and the jazzy of it. It's a really strong album. So I'm going to give this one an RTO ranking of 6.8. Okay, we've now moved into the top 10 albums, sorry. Some really good albums in this top 10. I think these are the ones that I've now put into my little library on Spotify, because I do like these albums. So coming in at number 10, it's from 1991, and it's called The Apprentice. So Foster Patterson's on here. Now I'm going to have a bash at his name. Taj Waskowski on rhythm guitar, Dave Ball on bass, Aaron Allen on the drums, Danny Cummins on percussion. We've got Colin Tully and Andy Shepherd doing some saxophone work, and Dawnceena Cummins does the backing vocals. First track on here is Live on Love, or Live on Love. A really good track. This is great production on it. It sounds really strong. The River, a really good vocal from John. I like the background of the saxophone. It really adds to the track. It's not in the foreground, it's just, you can hear it just gently going through the back of the track. Excellent track. Look at the Girl, a song that meanders but inspired by some great saxophone. Income Town, pleasant enough track, but it's not one of my favourites. Send Me Down the Line, great track, great vocal from John, some nice guitar work on that. Deny the Love reminds me of a Phil Collins style song off, something from Hello, I Must Be Going, or But Seriously. It's that sound really good. I like it. And John and Phil were good mates, so I can understand why there's that influence. Just like Hold Me. I was half expecting Phil Collins to start singing the lead vocals. I do like it. It really is good. Up-O, or Up-O, I don't know how. It's a quirky little number with some great little saxophone on it. The track The Apprentice, not very keen on, a bit flat. My favourite track on here is called The Moment 1. It's a lovely song. It's got some lovely acoustic guitar on it, which really adds to it. Patterns in the Rain, my second favourite track on here. It's written by Foss Patterson. Some nice guitar, fantastic vocal from John. A pretty good album. I really enjoyed listening to this. It's got lots of acoustic guitar on, which comes through very, very strong. So I'm going to give this one an RTO ranking of 7 out of 10. Number 9 then. Go way back to 1977 now. His 7th album, One World. First track on here. There's loads of people playing this. Dealer, this is good. Jazz fusion. Great vocal from John. His voice was strong back in the 70s, of course. Absolutely killer track. Love that. The title track, One World. Love the 1970s keyboard electric piano sound. I do love that sound. Really funky little track that is. Smiling Stranger. Interesting track. Bit different for 1977. Some quirky stuff on it. Pretty good though. Big Muff. Interesting title, isn't it? It's a good track though. Really groovy sort of mid-70s soul-y pop track, really good. Then my favourite track is Couldn't Love You More. It's the best version of the song. There's so many versions of it, but the original is the best. I just love the acoustics on this. It's really nice. Certain Surprise comes next. Second favourite track on here. That guitar and trumpet just adds atmosphere to it. Dancing, poppy folk songs, electric piano, really strong track. Small Hours, some lovely atmospheric on here. It's a little bit too long in places, but it has got some nice textures and sounds. I do like it a bit. Pretty solid album. It's got a couple of my favourite John Martyn songs on here, so I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 7.3. Okay, coming in number 8, 1975, Sunday Child. We've got Danny Thompson on the double bass, Iain Ginockley on drums, Al Anderson on the bass as well, John Brundrick on piano, his wife at the time, Beverly Martyn, doing backing vocals. Got Terry Wilson doing bass as well, Tony Brangle doing some drums, and Kev Sath on tabula. First track is One Day Without You. Love this track. Excellent electric piano. A great opening track to this album. Lay It All Down. This is one of them tracks. I've always thought that John Martyn is the British answer to Gordon Lightfoot in places. This is one of them tracks. It is. It's just very simple. Great vocal from John. Root Love. Great guitar on here. Some pretty nifty riffs as well. I do like that track. My Baby Girl. Excellent piano on here. And this is the track I believe that Beverly does her backing vocals on. It is, yeah. Great singer in her own rights is Beverly. We'll talk about that in another video. My favourite track on here is the title track, Sunday Trousers. It's some lovely guitar from John. The keyboard is super in this. What a track. Then we got a traditional folk song called Spencer Rover, The Rover. It's a good interpretation, and I've heard this by various people in pubs. It's a really good track, and John does a fine interpretation of it. Clutches, more great guitar from John on this. The acoustics are lovely. Satisfied Mind is another sort of traditional folk song, sultry number. I've heard this a few times, and this is a really good version of it as well. You Can Discover, a great track again. The acoustics, a little bit of a guitar, a little bit of piano in the background. Brilliant. Then we have this track called Call Me Crazy. This is where the tabula drums come in. It's wonderful how he mixes like it's an Anglo Indian folk song. Really good. The mystique of the east of India and the sort of the folk, traditional folk. What a track to end the album. Really good album. There are some strong tracks on this. The acoustic tracks are the best. So I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 7.4. Oh dear. Bit bunged up today. Hate this time of year. Okay. Coming in number 7 then. 8th album. 1980. Grace and Danger. So joining John for this little jaunt on keyboards, Tommy Eyre, who's played with quite a lot of people. He once stepped in to Alex Harvey, of course, when Mr. McKenna was a bit poorly on the keyboard. So in steps Tommy. John Giblin on bass, another name we know has played on everything. And then this certain drummer, some lad called Phil Collins. Then Dave Lawson does a little bit of synthesizer work as well. Some people are crazy. John Giblin is a fine bass player, and it works well. And he's got a great drummer as well. So the engine room on that of John Giblin, Phil Collins just works perfectly. Two fine musicians. It's a great track. Grace and Danger. Phil Collins, brilliant. His drumming on this is great. He's got some great guitar work from John Martyn. Tommy Eyre's keyboard work is just an outstanding, great track. Looking on, jazzy. So Phil did that big band thing, so he likes that jazz sound. He's played in jazz fusion bands himself. It's a great track. My favourite track on this one though is Johnny Too Bad. Got every elements of a bit of fusion here. We got guitars, we got some great drumming, some nice keyboard. A very, very good track. Sweet Little Mystery. Not a fan of this one. This is one of the tracks that when he re-recorded, it did benefit from it. This is a little bit thing, although Phil's drumming's good on it. Hurt in Your Heart, the bass line from John, very good. Got this guitar solo. It's not in the foreground, it's in the background. It's really good. It really adds to some fun on that track. But Baby Please Come Home, dominated by John Giblin. Excellent track. everyone sort of hooks onto that great bass line. Save Some For Me, a really nice groovy song. Excellent drumming here for Mr. Collins. Our Love, it's got that familiar Phil Collins drum roll on it at the beginning. Great bass line, really good track. Now, I think this is a very underrated album. It's got some great musicians on here. Tommy Eyre, John Giblin, Phil Collins. Brilliant, strong album. I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 7.5. Okay, coming in at number 6. Now, you know me and cover albums. I am not very keen on them. But this one is excellent. It's from 1998 and it's called The Church with One Bell. So it's some great tracks. Playing on it is John Martyn, Spencer Cousins acoustic keyboards, John Giblin again on bass, and Aaron Allen on the drums. So the first track on here is a Bobby Charles track, and he's got All the Whiskey, very similar to Bobby's version, and I think John does a great job of it. Absolutely brilliant version. Really enjoyed that one. Then we have a Randy Newman song on here, God's Song, That's the Why I Love Mankind. Again, what a version. It hasn't altered it too much, but it's a wonderful version. Now, how's this? How Fortunate Is the Man With None? A great track by Dead Can Dance. They're coming up very soon for an album ranking. I love this song anyway, but to hear John do it, he does it justice. What a really strong track. Then there's another Bobby Charles song, Small Town Talk. Even though this is a little different, it's a really good interpretation. Then we have a Ben Harper song called Excuse Me Mister. Now, I like Ben Harper's song, but this is a better version. It's my favourite cover on this album. It's a terrific song. Then we have a brilliant version of Strange Fruit, made famous by Billie Holiday, of course. The piano work is so delightful. Then we have The Sky Is Crying, Elmore James. This is the only track on here that doesn't sound nothing like Elmore James's version. It's not very good. Not a very big fan of that one. Then they do a Portishead track, and it's one of my favourite Portishead tracks actually, Glory Box, and he does a great version of it. It's nice that he's taken some of these modern tracks, and which not a lot of bands do, but this is great. Absolutely brilliant version. Then we have a Lightning Hopkins song, Feels So Bad. More funky version than Lightning Hopkins, but it's a great track anyway. But this is a really good track. And then we have Reverend Gary Davis, Death Don't Have No Mercy. A very soulful version of this bluesy number, but very, very good. As you know, I'm not a great lover of cover albums, but this one is exceptional. Apart from the one song, The Sky's Crying, every track is really good. So I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 7.6. Okay, coming in at number 5, we're going to 1973 now for the Inside Out album. John Martyn on vocals, Danny Thompson on bass and double bass, and a guest appearance of the wonderful Chris Stewart on bass. Stevie Winwood on bass and keyboards, Chris Wood on flute and horns, Remy Cabra on percussion, Keisaf Saith on tabla, Bobby Keys on the sax. First track on here, a classic John Martyn song. Love this song. One of my favourites, and it's Fine Lines. What can you say about this track except it's brilliant? The guitar, the piano and the bass, wonderful. Now, this is some Gaelic, and I'm not going to even attempt to say it. So there it is on screen. I'm sure Dave will tell us what it means tomorrow on, or tell me how to pronounce it. But apart from I can't pronounce it, it's a fantastic track. The guitar playing is good. There's some distortion on there that's really good. Up next is Ain't No Saint, another lovely song. Great guitar and vocals from John at his best. Outside In, absolutely brilliant track. The percussion's good. It's just a lovely track. The Glory of Love, really short track. Nice acoustic, sort of Gordon Lightfoot style, really strong. Looking, this is where we've got the use of the tabla drums on it. It really gives it some extra zing. It gives it sort of that mystique sound to it. A track called Beverly. I wonder if this is about his ex-wife. I just wonder. So why would he call the track Beverly? So there, I've got this thing. It's a nice song. Not slippy, sloshy stuff, but really nice. Make No Mistake, another solid song. I love John's playing on this on his guitar. Ways to Cry, drums with the brushes. Oh, I do love drums and brushes. It gives it so much atmosphere. Great track. So Much in Love with You. Great track. Great saxophone on it to end the track. An excellent album. Not a bad track on this from top to bottom. Cracking tracks. Really enjoyed this. So I'm going to give this one an RTO ranking of 7.7. Okay, coming in at number 4, we go back to the second album that you released, 1968, The Tumbler. Featured on here with John Martyn on flute, Harold McNair, David Moses on double bass, and Peter Wheeler on guitar. First song is a lovely song called Sing a Song of Summer. The acoustic guitar on this is wonderful. I do love this song. The River, another of my favourite on here. Love Harold McNair's flute on this. Just adds atmosphere. Wonderful guitar work from Paul and John on that. Going down to Memphis. One of my favourite vocals by John. He had such a, in them days he had such a soft voice. The Gardeners, more flute from Harold, some great guitar work. A Day at the Sea, just some wonderful guitar playing on this. Really good. Fishing Blues, I love these stories, blues songs about fishermen. Very, very good story as well. Dusty, not one of my favourite tracks on here, but what is good about it is the combination of the flute and that organ. The bit in the middle is really good. Hello Train, I like these sort of things. Guitar, singer, tell a story. Gordon Lightfoot style, really good. Winding Boy, a quirky little number with some nice guitar. Fly On Home, one of my favourites on this album. In fact, I think it is my favourite. It's just got really nice interplay with the guitars, and the singing on it is really good as well. Then we have Nuck, Lady Crunch and Slippity Slee song. Silly song, silly words, but fun track. Absolutely hilarious. I love that. And the last track on here is Seven Black Roses. Lovely song, some beautiful guitar playing from John Martyn. Very underrated guitar player, and this is a great way to end the album. This is where I do compare John Martyn to Gordon Lightfoot at times. What a wonderful album from top to bottom. I'm going to give this one an RTO ranking of 8 out of 10. Coming in at number 3 then, the fourth album from February 1973, and it's called Solid Air. It opens up with Solid Air. There's a couple of versions of this, of course, but this is the best. It's got an eerie vocal, it's got a really eerie bass line on it. It's a wonderful track. Lots of people play on this album, so we can't really mention them all. Over the Hill, got mandolin on this. Mandolin and acoustic guitar work well together. Fantastic track. Don't Want to Know, a groovy. The electric piano really gives this depth. Killer track, killer track. I'd Rather Be the Devil, which is a Skip James number. Really good. I love this bluesy number. Great version. Go Down Easy, sultry. The bass is great and a wonderful vocal from John. Dreams by the Sea. A little bit more funky. We've got some bongos on it. That gives it that little bit of groove. May You Never. A James Taylor sort of track. Love James Taylor. I love this track. The Man in the Station. My favourite track on here. What makes it good is that piano and bass together. You've got this nice little bit of guitar work as well. The Easy Blues. Now, I'm a big fan of acoustic blues, and this is a fine example. Strong vocal from John as well. Another solid album from John here. A little bit more funky than the previous. Great solid album, so I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 8.2. Okay, coming in at number 2, we have the debut album from 1967, and it's called London Conversation. It's John Martyn doing vocals, guitar, sitar and harmonica. First track, Fairy Tale Lullaby. What a wonderful little folk strum. Again, it's so good and Lightfoot. I love it. Sandy Gray. This is a song that Temper Robbins did. Her version. Shall we start again? Tempest Robbins. Robin Frederick's song now. Robin's version is nice. This is really good as well. I must proof when I do my little scripts. Oops, never mind. London Conversation. I love this. It's got some nice singing on it. It's a storytelling track. Love it. Ballad of Elder Woman. Again, it's a lovely song. It's a love song. It's telling a story. The guitar work is great. Then we have Cocaine, which is a traditional, not as in Eric Clapton, but a traditional folk song. It's a really nice song. Great vocal from John. Run Honey Run, Run Honey Run. One of my favourites on here. Just something about sitting there playing the guitar and singing a song. Back to Say, quality song, really nice words. John wrote some great songs, and this is one of them. Then we have a track called Rolling Home. My favourite track on here. It's Mystique. It's great, just a great song. Who's Grown Up Now? Super track, wonderful lyrics. You can sit down and listen to these lyrics now, wonderful. Golden Girl. It's amazing that a simple song can really be wonderful, and this is one of them. Not much to it. The words are good. It's the delivery that makes it so good. This Time, one of my favourite vocals of John Martyn. I love it's just that vocal and combination on the guitar. And then he does a Bob Dylan song to end the album, Don't Think Twice. A great song from Bob, and John's version is as good. I'll tell you why I love this album, because it reminds me so much of Gordon Lightfoot. And that's why I've always said that some of John's stuff is like our version of Gordon Lightfoot. So I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 8.3. Okay, my number one album is an album that he released after his 2 albums with Beverly, and it's still on that same vein, and I love them 2 albums he did with Beverly. And this is Bless the Weather from 1971. So on here, apart from John, is Richard Thompson on guitar, Smiley de Jones on percussion, Beverly Martin plays guitar and vocals on here, Danny Thompson double bass, Tony Reeves double bass, Ian Whiteman keyboards, and Roger Powell drums. First track on here is Go Easy. This is John and Beverly singing. They were so good together. It's a wonderful track. Some nice guitar work. The title track, Bless the Weather. John's vocal on here. His guitar work is amazing. Sugar Lump. It's just a good old sort of funky, sort of early 70s song. Wonderful sound on that. Walk to the Water. The percussion on this is great. The piano just lightens up the world. Just Now, one of my top 10 songs by John Martyn. It's just that piano. It's wonderful. Great vocal. My favourite track on here is Head and Heart. Of all the versions he done, this is just the best. It's got elements of James Taylor's delivery and vocal, the structure, the percussion. It's just such a great song. Definitely top 3 for me. Let the Good Things Come. Highlights apart from this John singing is Beverly's backing vocals. They're so haunting. Really good. Break Down the River. Another great track. One of my favourites by John. It's just something about it. I love the vocal delivery. I love the atmosphere. The words are wonderful. Great track. Then we have Glycerin Glyborn. It's a long track, but it's great. It's more progressive rock. It's got elements. It's got mood. It's got ups. It's got downs. It's a great guitar as well. And then we have a little track that we all know, Singing in the Rain, and it's a nice little track. I once sang this on stage at school with an umbrella. Yeah, that's another story. It's a nice little thing to end the album. There's not a bad track on this album. It's simply got folk, jazz, funk, progressive. It's an all-round album, and I think this should have been a Beverly Mark, because Beverly is so involved in this album. I don't know why they didn't record this as a Beverly Martyn and John Martyn album, but that would have made it even harder to rank them. But it was easy to make this. This has always been an album I've really liked. First time I heard this was about 10 years ago. It's one of them albums you sort of stumble on, and I love it. So I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 8.5. So there we go. If you've not heard much of John Martyn, a lot of it is on Spotify, but he's a great musician. I've really enjoyed doing this one, and I'm glad that I've sort of reconnected with John Martyn. Okay, that's all for today. I've got a busy day doing some photo shoots for thumbnails today. That'll be fun. But I'll be back tomorrow where we've got the last tie of Battle Royale of the second round, and it's between Quadrophenia from Stevie's Vinyl Cupboard and Secret Treaties from Mick from Blue Oyster Cult. Oh, what a tough one that one will be. Looking forward to that one. And what we got for tomorrow, we got a pick and mix. We're going to have a trip down memory lane, and we're going to look at the top 10 on that day from 1962. So that's all for tomorrow. Hope you have a good day, everyone, and bye for now.